Hello, ma'am. I welcome you to my podcast. I'm really thankful that you gave me time to come here for this podcast.
Thank you so much for your invitation, Chandan. Great to meet you. You're also an authority to me, given how much you're doing in your life. So great to meet you, and thank you again for the chance of being here.
So, for the audience, those who are going through this podcast, please introduce yourself for them.
Yeah, so my name is Natalia. I hold a PhD in computational neuroscience, and I also have background in mathematics, physics, and psychology. And I spent a long time in academia. I graduated way over, I passed 30, so I spent a long time in academic system, and I was planning to make it my lifestyle, my way of living, and with that vision, I was going through my PhD. But after my PhD ended, I took a gap year. I thought I can afford taking a time off to finish my research projects and to think about myself before I dive back into academia. But at that point, I had a plan to go back and find a suitable postdoc, and I just wanted to take a time off to recover from very intensive PhD. But during that time, I discovered that there are also other ways of living, and I discovered the startup culture. I got interested in blockchains. I started going to IT meetups. I made a lot of friends in many environments. I also started discovering that there are different working cultures, and at some point I realized this is what fascinates me more at this stage. So like sociology, job markets, and self-navigation in the job market, and why some people get to professional success and others don't. And I felt if I want to work in this space and create valuable tools for self-navigation, then I should start from the corner where I feel I can produce the most value, which is helping PhDs like me, because I knew how the PhD mentality can make it hard for you at the job market. And here in the Netherlands, it's relatively hard for PhDs to self-orient themselves in the job market because they are often categorized. They put in a certain box. It's really hard to jump out of this box. And especially if you're born to be a leader of some sort, it's really hard to persuade employers to give you a chance. And I felt, especially as an expat, I'm not Dutch, I'm Polish, so I had like double like ceiling over my head, and I felt I should help people like me and try to come up with functional ways of directing people in the right places and helping them land the good jobs. So I started working on that, and slowly I started perceiving myself more as an entrepreneur and career advisor, and less as a researcher. And I still do research from time to time. I'm still involved in research projects, but to minor extent today. And I spend most of my time in my company today, writing blogs, writing books, designing training programs for PhDs, but also for industry professionals right now, giving talks, also making personal investments in free time. I'm interested in all these new online movements related to Metaverse, etc. So I also spend some time on online groups just discussing. And so I spend a lot of time online, and I'm just trying to make sense out of the job market today, the way it's changing. I'm trying to, my ambition is to stay on top of things, to understand the technology, to understand in which directions the job market is proceeding, to try to be always like one step ahead, try to see the trends before they become mainstream, to advise people better. And yeah, so this is my orientation right now, and so far so good. I think I chose well. I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and I think now I know for sure that there is life outside of academia. Actually, I like what I do much more now because I can see the benefits. Like I can see the beneficiaries of my work. My PhD project was very theoretical. It was modeling large-scale networks in the brain, and it was very like high level. Like I didn't really have contacts to the clinics. I didn't have contacts to patients, to like experiments. I just worked with data, and that was never really like satisfactory enough for me. I wanted to do something that is more hands-on and has clear like beneficiaries, and now I hear it much more often that, hey, thank you for your help. It really changed something in my life for the better. So it's really rewarding. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So, as just said that there is a life outside academia, and most of the researchers do realize this very very late, like after they complete their postdoc, and that's when I think, okay, there is life outside also. And since you have spent so much time in academia, so what did you liked and what did you disliked about staying in academia for so long?
Yeah, so one thing I definitely like in academia is this culture of meeting in person,
Mm-hmm.
like this culture around conferences, and the fact that I mean, I didn't really appreciate it enough, I think, as long as I was in academia, but now I always tell people, like, enjoy as long as it lasts, because that's what you do later. Like, everyone coming to the dance floor at the conference and dancing like in a wedding, like everybody dancing with everybody. It's like quite specific to academia. And now I have good memories of that. And in my PhD, I traveled places. I've been to Hawaii, I've been to Singapore, I've been to so many like beautiful places just because I was a PhD student, and I was sent there for to present my work. So now I feel, okay, this was really like highlights of my PhD journey for me. Like, I have a lot of good memories. And what I didn't like, well, this is a systemic problem. Academia is broken as a system. It's like a medieval system in 21st century. It just doesn't work this way anymore. And it slowly loses competition with industry, even research-wise. Like, when you
Mm-hmm.
look up the top publications, more and more of them, like publications published at Nature, at Science, are coming from companies, actually. Google
Mm-hmm.
Brain, um, Google AI, they start publishing more in machine learning and neuroscience than neuroscientists, just because they have like more of a teamwork culture where the whole team is like gets acknowledgement equally, not just a particular individual. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the problem, this individualism, the fact that we have to build our own individual CV and well, pretty
Mm-hmm.
much. So this is a systemic problem. So if you have that system that doesn't incentivize teamwork, then like it kind of brings the worst out of people. It brings like the worst out of good people, and then you it's easy to like end up with a toxic workplace because of there's no incentive to help each other. So this is I think what I enjoy the least.
Okay.
But other than that, I of course enjoy the fact that I can decide
Sorry, I'm really sorry. Sorry.
how my
Sorry.
week is structured. Yeah,
Please
so I could
continue.
decide how my week is structured, and I could take a lot of decisions for myself and try things, like experiment with my project. So that of course I enjoyed a lot. But that's also why I chose what I chose later. So I took lessons from that, and I was like, okay, all the aspects of my PhD that I enjoyed were entrepreneurial, sort of. So I enjoy the freedom that it gives. That's why I should basically choose the path of freedom right now, because this is apparently what I enjoy the most. And that's also why I took a decision that I took. Yeah.
So, as you were talking about the research is being published by the companies instead of from academia. So, what I have seen is that the work that gets done in academia in 1 year, the same work gets done in industry in like 3 to 4 months. So this is what I have seen. So have you also observed these kind of things?
Yes, of course, yes. And sorry. Yes, I did, and I can see why, because there is just not, again, enough incentive to there is no, like, the dynamics is very low. So
Mhm.
when I was a PhD student, it was normal to send out an email and get a response in a month or 3 months, and this was like accepted.
Mhm.
Like, if I work now in my company, I work with subcontractors. I don't have employees at the moment, but if I work with someone and they are not responding for more than 24 hours, I just find them like a really non-collaborative
Mhm.
person. So if that happens often, then I just look for somebody else, because this always slows down the project. So even to say I don't know, that's already a response. If you just don't know something, say it. But it's better to say it quickly than, and find somebody else who perhaps knows, than to keep the question or the project on your desk. And in academia, unfortunately, there is just no way of motivating people also, because you don't have any, like, for instance, as a PhD student, what is my impact? Like, if I say, let's say, I ask a postdoc from another lab something and they don't respond, what is my mean of persuasion? Right? I cannot do anything. I don't have any power to make them do work faster, because I don't pay them. So there is just no, yeah. And in industry, everything is organized in teams, and there is a team manager who takes a look at everyone, and depending on your like speed of response, that will nothing will get unnoticed, and the way you communicate, that will also contribute to your promotions, to your bonuses. So you have direct, so someone is always like looking after the whole team and observing how you behave, and depending on that, it directly leads to benefits or lack of benefits or punishment sometimes. So basically, there is like very direct cause and effect. So it's just, again, this is a systemic difference. And I personally believe that people are ambitious everywhere and smart everywhere. So it's like not a difference between the quality of people. It's just a difference of system of incentivizing people. So that's the difference. But you're totally right. Everything goes faster in industry. And funny enough, it's also something that many researchers are not aware of or about. So when I ask them at courses or workshops, well, do you think that um, it's a good idea to leave academia because you're tired with your fast pace of working? Many people say yes, and then I say, well, do you expect life in industry to be slower? Because I think twice.
No.
And they're very surprised to hear that it's actually faster. And you work in industry, right? And you work in academia. So you have a comparison. So maybe you can also give your honest opinion about it.
That's what even I have observed. Like something that I built while while working as a JRF in 2 years was built. Another similar thing was built by me during my job in 3 months. So I was like, okay, why did I take 2 years to build that thing in academia while I have to do same work here in 3 months? So that's when I realized that how things go there and how things work here. So one of the things that you also talked while you were introducing yourself, that you went through a phase of self introspection where you thought, okay, what I'm doing in life. So I would like to know it from you, that how was that phase and how did it go through and what did came out.
Right. First of all, I feel like blessed that I could do that, because I know, of course, there is like there are people who can afford it, and there are people who don't. But there's also why I always advise PhDs already early on in their PhD program to start putting aside some savings, start thinking about their personal finance to be able to create that financial cushion, because that really allows you to make better career decisions. So these different, like, life is like wholesome. It's one entirety, at least in my eyes. It's hard to really separate your professional development from your financials, from your wealth, from your health, from your relationships as well. Like your social contacts are also valuable, and they are also a set that can lead to professional development. So it's all like connected together. So just a general piece of advice: just try to make yourself opportunity to take a time off when you need it. So think about it, think many years ahead, and try to create those conditions when you can actually take a time off without worrying about your financials. And so I could afford it. That's why I decided to do it. And I didn't have, it was actually quite a freestyle. I didn't have like a one plan what I would do in this time. And I didn't even set like a deadline that it was supposed to be a year. I was like, I will take as much time as I need. I'll just see what happens. I started working. It was actually a charity work. I started working as a career mentoring manager in organization for human brain mapping in their student council, and we had like a group of people who were organizing events together, all centered at better mentoring in our organization. And I was coordinating the program for them for a year, for 2 years actually, and also I was actually at some point I had that concept that since I like writing, that I could write business plans for startups. I wrote a white paper for one blockchain project, but then in the process I discovered a few things. First of all, I discovered that business development is not as difficult. It's just a bit of a game. You have to ask the right questions, and you just have to find a good problem and a good solution to the problem, and the rest is just playing a game in which you design the solution and you try to avoid all the potential problems like competition, and you try to find your niche and then find your client, find your customer, persuade them that this is the best solution to their problem. And so it's a sort of a game that I can play. It's that there is I discovered that it doesn't require being a genius or anything like that. It's just a matter of being having rules and being systematic, and I can do it. So when I saw how other people do it, I was like, there's nothing that they are doing that I couldn't do, in fact. So that also showed me, hey, you can do it. You just have to find your purpose, find your problem that you want to solve, and then focus on it, and you'll be fine. And the rest you will just learn as you go. And I also actually discovered one more thing, which was that I really this aspect of academic life, taking ownership of your projects, is really important to me. I actually, when I started writing for other people as a ghostwriter, I didn't really feel satisfied about the fact that I'm just selling my time for money or for shares, and I don't really get much like else. So it's not my project. And I felt like this is apparently important for me. I have to have my own project, because just delivering for someone else is just not regardless how much they would pay me, would still be something. There would still be something missing for me. So we always put our name on our publications in academia, and I just realized that this was actually important for me more than I thought. So that's also why I wrote a book. I was like, I always wanted to write, and now there is a subject that I want to write about. I think I have enough material, and I will just put my name on it. This is my piece of writing. Let's start there. And that prompted me to write a book. And then I started from there. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was again I put a lot of work in a lot of projects. Many of them failed in the process. There were also some publications that never came out because the project kind of died because for many independent reasons. So there were I was trying a lot of things, and I was thinking in many directions. I was thinking of going towards behavioral economy. I was going towards thinking about trading. I was thinking about many different directions, but eventually I thought I was always meant to be some form of a creator and entrepreneur and someone who is really independent, and then I was like, hey, you're like 30 plus, like if you have to have guts to create a company now. If you want to ever have it, like, why not now? When, if not now you have time. And especially after the pandemic started, then I was like, now you don't have a choice really, because there's nothing else that you should be now doing, and this is the best time to sit down and produce content, because there's everything is closed anyways. So it's just you have all the time in the world to actually keep on working, writing, producing. And so I basically I felt like, yeah, this is what I should be doing right now. And so far so good. It's always difficult to create a business, especially if it's online. And in times like this, for someone who didn't have following before, for someone who doesn't have investment, I bootstrapped my company from zero. Like I didn't have any investment. I didn't have any business partners. I started like just before the corona, so it was all like really hard. But so far so good. I think the company is going to take off this year, and I have more and more interesting, valuable people with good ideas and knowledge coming to me, like that are willing to collaborate. I have a professional salesperson who came to actually set up the whole affiliate program, and I have another yeah. So there are many people around who are actually collaborating actively. So at the moment, I think I'm in a really good spot, because it's only going to get better from this point. But the beginnings were not easy, and like for a long time, I was not even sure what I was doing. Like it's not that, in retrospect, when you look at CVs and resumes of often successful people, it's often it looks like they had a perfect plan for what they're about to do. But it's not like that. You just don't know. You try 20 things, 3 of them will work, or maybe 1 of them will work. The rest you have to drop. And then, on LinkedIn, it looks like, oh yeah, you had a great plan, but it doesn't show what you didn't succeed at. So it was a lot of self-discovery and trials, and eventually I'm happy about what I'm doing. I think it's perfect. I will just keep on going this way. But yeah, for a long time I was just, I wasn't sure what I was about to do in 2, 3, 5 years.
Yes. One of the things that I really liked as you really talked about the team, that okay, when you got a sales one, you thought that okay, this thing can go right. Well, what I have seen in academia, most of the team part is missing. Like in industry we have that team thing, that okay, if this thing needs to be done, it will be executed by a team, while in academia team part is somewhere missing. So this is what I've seen. Am I right in this case, or is it the other way at your play, at your like part?
No, I think it's the same everywhere, just because we are evaluated for our individual contribution, right? When you are applying for jobs or grants, what gets evaluated is your personal story of publication, right? So you have to always put yourself first when it comes to projects. So that's why people start playing the game, like, how do I get maximal output giving minimal input? Like, so how do I position yourself in projects so I'm high in the authors list by doing as little as possible, so that I can cover as many projects as possible and my publication list is as long as possible, right? It's just playing games. And again, I would not blame people for doing that, because they actually, to keep on going in academia, they have to. So it's really, I think there's like, it's not any related to people's inability to work in a team. It's just that they actually are not incentivized to, but rather the opposite.
So
Yeah.
when you talk about incentivizing the team and the persons, do you only contribute the money factor in it, or there are other things too?
Well, I mean, I think people are naturally team players. People naturally like working in teams. And as long as you don't give them good reasons not to work in a team, they will prefer to work in a team. In academia, it's just that if you think about the team, but you don't think about yourself enough, then you will be out of the game at some point. That's why people are actually, they have to think of their own output. But well, not, I think the natural mode for everyone is to work in a team. So yeah, maybe I'm not a good example here because I do it
Understood.
really independent, but I also work in teams. So I am a kind of a leader of my own project in my own little company. But when I, let's say, attend online groups in like these blockchain projects or some discussion groups, some other projects, and I'm not a leader. I'm just a contributor like any other, and I also enjoy that a lot. So it's I think people naturally want to be in a group, and in industry, it's actually done in this functional way that you the whole team is winning or the whole team is losing. So that then, yeah, that makes perfect sense, and then they actually binds people together. So I would like to see more of that in academia, of course, although the current system is just in the current system, publication is the currency, so it's really hard to leapfrog that problem and propose a solution where indeed this problem is somehow mitigated. I myself don't have a solution, even though I was thinking of this problem for many years, but I think there is no viable solution to this problem just yet. It's just really hard problem. Yeah.
So one line that you said when you were introducing yourself that actually struck me so hard is that PhD mentality can make it hard to go to the job market, right? If the person still has that PhD mentality. I have faced it. Seriously, I have faced it. Some of the industry jobs have now stopped to prefer PhD students for their positions because of that mentality.
Mhm.
So how do you think we can go ahead with that? How we can make it so that it is not an issue anymore?
Right. Yeah, I mean, there are a few different parts of the problem. So one of them is like the stereotypes, right? So
Mhm.
most recruiters, industry recruiters, don't have PhDs, so they don't know what this entails, and they have like sometimes they have like unrealistic or untrue vision of what PhD means. So, for instance, they think that PhD, like a scientist equals specialist. So we
Mhm.
don't have any managemental skills. We are supposed to just keep on producing from behind the computer, and we don't have people skills, which is not true. Or they have this vision that yeah, PhDs have very high financial expectations just because they have higher education. So why to even hire a PhD if you don't need it? So maybe better skip the person, right? Or yeah, they have all kinds of stereotypes. But PhDs also make mistakes while looking for jobs. For instance, they sometimes they leave like job search for the very last moment because they think,
Mhm.
okay, if I have such a good education, I will always be fine. So I don't
Mhm.
need to focus on job search right now. I'll just finish my projects. I will just look for it when I need it. But then when they need it, there is nothing suitable for them, and they're like, hey, like, I was hoping that I will have like a bunch of offers on my desk and nobody is calling me, and
Mhm.
then they discover that it's actually not as easy to find a good job. So that's one problem. Another problem is that once they already uh, get a job and start working, they are sometimes just still like they are perfectionistic, they are idealistic, and they value ideas. But in fact, like industry is much more practical. Everything has to be
Mhm.
fast. It has to be good quality to price ratio, not necessarily the highest quality. It has to be optimized for time
Mhm.
and not always like, and the idea, every idea has like price tag to it.
Mhm.
It's about whether or not it brings income to the employer, and if it's doable and what is the roadmap, and not necessarily how to save the world, right? So
Mhm.
PhDs often like lose this competition in the workplace because they stick to these old values brought from academia, where you have time and it's all about the societal impact, and it's more like a monastery in which you can spend years just getting like perfect at one
Mhm.
in one area, and then they just yeah, find themselves in a new environment where everything has to be fast, quick, approachable, functional, and it's like just different values that are being valued in industry, and it takes them years sometimes to
Mhm.
rewire and start working in this new uh, way of yeah, way of work.
Environment. So you also talked about the research and like you find out or you study about the kind of research that is going on in the metaverse. So would you like to tell us about it? Because I am just new to that concept.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that doesn't have currently much to do with my career advisory. It's just a personal interest.
Hmm.
I'm tracking what's happening in many areas of the job market, including the IT sector, and that's just a Metaverse is like gaming and web design brought to the next level together, and yeah, there will be definitely consequences for the job market. That's why I'm following the progress. There's definitely going to be yeah, a change in the way we approach each other, and also perhaps in recruitment. So you will be able to, in the future, you will be able to immerse yourself in a 3D model of your employer's headquarters. Instead of just going there, you could just get interviewed from another corner of the world, and you could just make a tour around the headquarters from your own place. And there are many different ways in which Metaverse will change the industry. But again, this is just out of personal interest.
Yes, sir.
And to be perfectly honest, also there is a lot of controversy to what extent Metaverse is going to quantitatively versus qualitatively change the way things are. So is it going to be a real like qualitative change that we will meet in 3D environment instead of just meeting each other like now on Zoom and just seeing each other's faces? Like, does it change that much in the interaction or not? Right? Because even if conversation is boring, it will stay boring. If it's interesting and deep, it will be interesting and deep. So how does it even change your life, your quality of life? So that's a broad subject. But there's definitely it's interesting trend to track, and definitely, just as any other innovation, it will definitely create some jobs and also make some jobs obsolete. Like for instance, in the future, if you can just trespass like a property for sale in 3D, and it's tokenized, and you can buy a piece of it anywhere in the world. If you like it, then why would you need real estate agents? Like they
Yes.
won't exist anymore. So it's a Metaverse will definitely create jobs, but it also will eliminate a range of professions. Yeah.
So coming back to the podcast, we started from somewhere and went to somewhere. Okay, so you have a triple MSc, right? In three subjects. When I saw that, I was like, how? Like we sometimes get it so hard to do one MSc, and you have a three of them. So how did that come through, and how you manage that?
Well, I still wonder why I did this. Like, kids, don't do it to yourself. It was a lot of work. No, it was a lot of work. I was sleeping really little, I would have to say. I was actually my study track was interfaculty, so that made things a little bit easier because I could choose my own schedule. So I could combine courses that was in a way convenient to me. So that helped me a little bit. But in general, it was a lot of work. At that point, I also knew I was interested in brain research, but I was studying in Warsaw, and it was like over 10 years ago, and there were no study plans back then that were oriented at neuroscience. Now they have excellent facilities, but back then when I was a student, maybe 15 years ago, there was not much choice. So I decided to combine knowledge from a few different disciplines together to be able to then get accepted for a good PhD program abroad in neuroscience. So I chose medical physics at physics, and I chose applied mathematics at the Faculty of Mathematics, and I chose psychometrics at psychology. So I kind of combined three disciplines, and then I had a really good starting point to do a PhD in neuroscience. But again, I think if there is just one subject that you really like, just choose for it, because also it cost me a lot of health. Like it was really like physically draining to do so many courses at a time. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, because doing one masters for me was like so much, and three would have been too much. So as you said, your work of PhD, right? So your work was also your work of PhD was also on science of brain, or was it something else?
Yeah. Yeah, it was my PhD was brain science, although it was theoretical. So I was making models of communication in large-scale brain networks, and I was focused on the topic of causality in in the brain. So yeah, it was
Causality in the
neuroscience.
brain.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? I'm sorry, I don't know about it.
Well, so basically, I was working on data from functional magnetic resonance imaging. This is, when you put a subject in this like magnetic tube with electromagnetic field, and basically it does tomography. So it basically scans your brain layer by layer, making 3D maps of the activity in your brain. And then once you get these scans done continuously over a period of time, you have a series of 3D scans that show the changing activity over time. So I was getting this kind of data, and my job was to try to back engineer how the brain was communicating during the experiment. So I had the output, like how the activity in every voxel in the brain changes over time. And I had to kind of guess back how different brain regions were speaking to each other during the experiment,
Oh,
which is not an easy problem, by the way. It's actually quite hard mathematical problem.
but it sounds so fascinating to go back and see how the brain would have been thought to working. It seems very fascinating. Okay, so you joined as a research assistant at an institute, and then joined the PhD also at that same institute. So how did you make that decision? Like, okay, I have to continue here itself.
Well, I was planning to study there from the beginning. I was yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, so when I was moving abroad, I had my mind set on the concept of doing a PhD. That was my purpose. So I
Mhm.
did exactly what I was planning. Yeah, so at that point, I was really falling in love with neuroscience and academia, and like I didn't really consider any other options. I was like, I was going the Arnold Schwarzenegger's style. Like his motto is no plan B. So I was
Mhm.
like, no plan B. This is the, to be or not to be. It's like really, it's like my way or no way or a highway, right? Like I
Mhm.
will just do it. It will work no matter what. I'll do neuroscience. I want to be a professor in neuroscience. I really didn't see any other ways of living, just this one. So I was like 100% decided I want to do this.
So your current company is that the name of the staging Solaris, right? So there you assist other researchers with their work, right? So how did you get that idea that okay, okay, this is something that I need to do?
Well, yeah, this is like a necessity or like a need that I developed over time. I was like, okay, I want to solve some problem,
Mhm.
and I have this problem. I felt it on my own skin. And because, they say you should choose a problem that you feel on your own skin. That's the best
Mhm.
problem to solve, because
Mhm.
then you will be determined. You have to be
Mhm.
determined to solve it.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, I had this problem. I know that many people have it. I know it for sure. So I want to tackle this problem. And this is, yeah, this is usually the best start. And I had also positive feedback, because if I didn't and if I didn't feel I'm doing a good job, I would just choose something else. Like I was not, I didn't want to have a company for the sake of just making money. And it's also like if I wanted to orient myself at that, there are other ways that are much easier. So e-commerce, like, it's just directly selling products, right? You don't
Mhm.
have to spend a year or 2 or 3 years on developing content. You can just start from selling.
Mhm.
Whereas I had to like develop intellectual property, develop some tools, develop content, and then only then start selling. So it was really a long way. So I chose a problem I wanted to solve. That was my objective, and I didn't really think about what type of company could I have to optimize my profits or anything like it. I was like, I want to have the satisfaction that I chose important problem to solve, and then actually something I could solve, or at least I could contribute to. And I would rather contribute small piece like of solution to a large problem than choose a really niche problem and and revolutionize like a field that 20 people care about in this world. So like this is something I was doing in my PhD. I had very niche topic because this topic of causality in the brain, especially given fMRI data, is like 20 people in the world do this research. So I always felt like nobody even understands my presentations. Like I do something very niche that no one really cares about. No one really reads my papers because it's such a like narrow subject. It's difficult and it's not rewarding because almost no one is able to comprehend these publications anyway. So now I wanted to do something that tackle a problem that is like countered by millions of people really, and do a little bit to solve this problem. Yeah.
So, as you said that during your PhD, your niche was very specific. Your niche was very small. This is something that every researcher aspires to find out, that okay, the niche that I get should be very small, but they don't see the after effects of it, the negatives of that. If you can share some of those that you faced during your research for having a very small or specific niche.
Right. Well, I think with this problem of how to choose the right research question or right research project, this is kind of similar as with business development, because it's either that you're going for a niche subject but you don't have much competition, so you're probably the only person who is working on the subject, and you probably don't compete with too many other people trying to publish the same results. Or you go for mainstream project and try to find a cure for cancer, and then you know that there are hundreds of other teams that are kind of in a race with you, trying to publish this mainstream project. So it's either one or the other. Well, I think in my case it was extremely on this side of niche projects, safe projects, because I was always sure that I would publish my results because nobody else was trying to reach exactly the same goal as me. But at the same time, there was not much interest. So it's either like you go mainstream or you go into a niche, and then both of them have their own problems, right? So and I think with business development it's very similar. So the question is, do you compete on a product or service that many other people do, or do you go your own way and try to create something different? So when I was designing my test, I was also thinking to myself, okay, what are the questions that no other popular test is actually answering? Because I don't want to create another test, personality test, that is like 120th to answer the same question. I want to create something that is compatible with other tools, but answers different sets of questions, so that there is no competition. So it's my own niche, and that's how I was choosing my business project. Yeah. So but this is very difficult. Like this, like choosing the right projects, both in and outside of academia, is like, I think it's an art, and that's also why to become a professor, you kind of have to master it. So make sure that you always play your risk and your reward well.
So before we go ahead to the test part, there is one thing that, okay, when we are trying to make a business plan, right? When we're trying to write a business plan, one of the ultimate ways to evaluate a business plan might be that how much revenue can be generated from that business. One of the ways to judge a business plan can in that similar way, when we are trying to judge a research idea, so one of the ultimate ways to judge a research idea is, would we be able to uh, publish some articles out of that research idea. So is there something else also?
Yeah, of course. There is also a citations factor, right? So how many people are interested in reading this material? How many potential citations can we count on? So citations citations are definitely the currency right now, maybe even more so than the impact factor itself, right? Because yeah, impact factor is kind of dependent on the journal, and citations are dependent on your direct content, right? So I think today there is a trend to look into citations more than impact factor of the papers that you are publishing at. So that's, I think, the recent trend in grant writing and assessing grants. Yeah, so this is the currency, publications and citations. Yes.
Do you think it's okay to use this as a currency? Like one can be doing such good research and not get enough citations, and one might not be good that enough work, but getting some citations. So do you think that the citations should be a factor to judge a researcher or the kind of work that he or she is doing?
Well, this is difficult again because different subfields of the same field have different population, right? So since,
Hmm.
for instance, like articles published in mainstream genetics and genomics get thousands of citations just because this field is huge. So there are
Hmm.
like tens of thousands of specialists working around the globe on very similar subjects in large consortium, and they publish thousands of papers, so there are thousands of citations. And there are, like in neuroscience, like some part of the neuroscientific community publishes in genomics, and then they get thousands of citations. And people in my subfield that are just working door in door with them, are publishing purely computational studies and theoretical studies, so we get the dozens of citations, right? It's like factor 100 less. And this is how it is, because really it always scales with the size of the population. If the field is
Hmm.
populated, then there will be substantially more citations, proportionally more citations. So yeah, I think it should always be taken into account, and whether or not it's done well, I think it's really hard. Uh, I think it's, yeah, this is a big topic, and I also don't feel like I'm the expert. You know, there are
Hmm.
so many people who are like fully focused on how to make academic system better. Like I
Hmm.
myself, I kind of gave up on
Hmm.
trying. So I focused on helping people who already decided to move out or are hesitating if to move out, and I decided to focus on what is outside of academia. And I still track of what's happening in academic system, but honestly speaking, I'm not like I don't think that I'm the right person to propose solutions. And in either way, the solution is not easy. It's
Hmm.
really
It is not easy.
complicated, very complex system with many different stakeholders, and it's really hard to come up with something that would be a fair method of evaluation, honestly.
So, coming on to the next part. In July 2019, you founded Ontology of Value, right? So please tell us about it, like what it is and what it does.
Right. So I started from writing a book, putting together all the information I collected about the job market for PhDs. And basically the title of the book is What is Out There for Me, the landscape of post-PhD career tracks. And the main point of the book is that at the end of your research career, once you go to the open job market, you have one crucial choice to make. You have to choose between safety and freedom. So you have to choose between um, stable career in public institutions or large corporations where you have basically you are under the umbrella of your employer. You still have movement. You can develop yourself, but in general you are catered. You're taken care of. Versus freedom like entrepreneurship, where like it's a freestyle. No one looks after you. You are on your own, but you also have all the possibilities in the world to develop yourself. So once you discover your talents and you have a plan for yourself, you can go anywhere, do anything. So
Hmm.
it's just, but you don't have that safety that an employer will give you. So that's the most important subject that you should be thinking of. Do you miss, because some people when they step out of academia, they feel like they feel they would like to be more free. They feel suppressed in academia. I did feel like that. But some other people feel exactly the opposite. They're like, oh, this is so unstable. I would like to have more stable life. So the most important dilemma you have to now solve is, which direction do I go? Do I go a path of safety? Do I go a path of freedom? And well, depending on that, you have many different choices to make and many different opportunities, but this is the main choice you have to make. And so, and the whole book, like a lot of information, like 300 pages of information. So it's a lot of content, but this is the central message. And you can go anywhere. Like PhDs are like stem cells. They just have, they can develop in almost any direction. So it's just more like a curse of abundance. It's hard to choose rather than like limited options. But you also have to learn how to present yourself. So that's another story, right? So you have a lot of opportunities, but you also have to learn how to milk those opportunities. And yeah, and so this is hard point in terms of self navigation, because you are entering a new world. But you have to learn a few skills, and then you'll be fine. It's like nothing to be feared from. There's really a lot of opportunity, and like vast majority of people who went to industry feel happier there. So very few cases I know of people who come back to academia after spending some time in. I know such cases, but just few of them. So you'll be fine. So don't worry too much. It's going to be fine. And so I started from the book. Then I designed a training program, which I'm also now doing. So it's a 4 or 6 weeks intensive training that is fully online, and I do it every second month. And this is for those who are like willing to like set their mind on a new goal, figure out what is best for them, also learn all the skills necessary to find new jobs, train also for job interviews. So we do everything there, from talking about the opportunities in the job market, through help people self-discover themselves, to choose the right track, to train for job interviews, to make them perfectly prepared to job applications, and I help them with applications as well. So it's really, really intensive. All the everything you need to really get the job in industry. And then I designed the Ontology of Value test, which is something I'm most proud of. It's actually, I used all my knowledge I ever gained from my PhD, but also research outside of PhD. It's a test developed using machine learning, actually, and psychometrics. So I combined I combined all the methods I learned in my PhD to design a tool that basically, based on your personality type, on your natural working style, on your personality, and on your values, it basically tells you where in the job market you fit best. And it's supported by the data. We did research on that. So basically, it classifies participants. So it will show you which working environment you fit best and in which percentile you also land. So it will tell you, for instance, you're more entrepreneurial than 92% of population, or you are more corporate than 60%. So you will not only see what your top scores are, but also how you score compared to the population. So you, in other words, you will see where your competitive advantage in the job market is.
Okay.
So, and that's people value a lot, especially PhDs, because they want to see the quantitative results, not only qualitative, but they want to see where they are in the job market. So this will give you a good overview of where you are and where you fit best. And that's something that I myself, I wish I had 10 years ago, because actually I did the test as a participant after it was already complete. So I was curious how I would score, and I like 100% agree with the results. It basically showed me entrepreneurship as well. It showed me that I'm a type of a creator and investor, but not necessarily a specialist, which is something I was trying to push myself to do for 15 years. But I was never meant to be a specialist, someone who sits behind the desk and solving very specific problem. So it kind of showed me, it showed me the truth. So I was like, okay, this works. This works the way it was expected to. Yeah, and today it's actually available already.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's only in English.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be going to translate it to other languages later, but now it's available in English. You're always welcome to try. And yeah, do you have questions about this test?
Yes. So I actually went through your test. Actually went through your website and all of those things. So what I found out that your test costs around 2600 in Indian currency, which might be not possible for an Indian researcher. So can you just provide us a discount on it? Then it would be great.
Absolutely, yeah. For your viewers, I offer a 15% discount that will be available for the next 6 months.
Thanks so much.
So you guys, if you would like to try, please check out the discount code that will be posted here on YouTube. So I'm sure that Chandan will
Yeah.
show you all the information below. Yes, of course, and you're welcome. If you have any questions, you easily find me through social media as well.
I'll
And
also add your mail ID in the description so that if anybody wants to contact you directly. So for all of you who are watching this, I'd like to tell it to you, go ahead, try that test. It is actually going to help because I have also tried it, and the results actually matched to what I was expecting them to be. So you all must go ahead and try to it. It is from all of you. Plus we have a discount too. So that's more of a good thing. So coming on to the next thing, I would like to give a scenario to you. And how and in that scenario, so uh, like there is a PhD student who who is about to complete their PhD, like they are in the third year or the end of the third year or the fourth year, something like this, right? And that person decides to go ahead for an industry job. So how will he or she decide which career in industry should he or she choose?
yeah, I think well, this is actually the question for the whole book. So
Okay.
of course, I think important thing you have to ask yourself is, are you a people's person or are you a problem person? So are you a
Okay.
type of a specialist or a type of manager? Because that's really like that's a major difference. So if you're perfectly fine sitting in silence and just focusing on one problem, and just if you have that ambition to become the to go to person for specific type of problems, and that makes you happy when people ask you about specific type of problems, then it's much easier, because then your academic curriculum is already a very good start to become an industry professional, and you probably have it's really it's a fast ball. Most of the jobs you can find even on LinkedIn, they are tailored for specialists, and specialists are highly wanted today. So you are competitive as a specialist, and you can go work almost anywhere, just straight after your PhD. So you're well set for that. If you decide to be a manager, and then it's much harder, because again, like recruiters often don't give us proper credit for our management skills. So most often you have to first prove yourself. So either enter a company as a specialist first, and then get to some level of seniority when you get your own team, or you have to start from project management. So project or product management, they are still like possible to get as a PhD graduate, but then you will have to take additional training, such as, let's say, um, executive MBA during your work, to be able to qualify for a team leader. So if you want to be like a boss in a team, like have your own team in a company, so be like a like regular manager who actually takes care of their own people, then it's not as easy straight after a PhD. It's pretty undoable. You have to first start from, yeah, project management, which is not real management. You don't have your own team. You just have a project to manage. So that's a different story. But then you have a long way and many years to of training before you get to the team leader position. So it's a much longer way. But it's possible. Everything's possible. But I think you have to think for yourself. Okay, what is my favorite part of a PhD? Let's say, is it solving research problems, like sitting behind my desk tackling these problems, or maybe teaching students, maybe supervising students and teaching? These are my favorite parts, because in that case, probably you should look more into management positions, and then yeah, you will have a longer way to go. So that, and again, like the careers very much depend on the industry. So there is no one pill that will solve every problem. Like every case is different. Every case is different, but I think so. First of all, yeah, thinking about how am I a manager type or am I a specialist type? And secondly, what are my core competencies? What am I really strong at? And this is not necessarily something that you were studying for longest. So like I myself, I learned programming ever since I was attending university, but I don't feel I'm a strong programmer. I feel I'm good conceptually and I can understand algorithms, but I'm not a strong coder. Like others are faster than me. So why would I be a professional programmer if this is not my biggest strength? Like I prefer writing, I prefer creating content, I prefer teaching. There are so many other things where I make fast progress, even though I didn't spend as much time on them before. So I look at the things that you really enjoy and learn the fastest, because people often make this mistake. They're like, okay, I invested so many years in training this particular skill. That means I'm an expert now. I have to milk this opportunity, right? I have a diploma in this like top-notch, university in this like field, and there are only so many people in the world who can do this. So I have to do this because this is what I can do. But do you enjoy it, right? Because people who do enjoy it will, fast track you, and they'll jump over you very quickly, like, and you will not enjoy it. So why would you, at some point you have to say, okay, I spent 10 years on this, not, but that's not my way. I have to, I follow my path and it's different. So don't think about it as a loss, because sooner or later you use this knowledge in either way. Maybe indirectly, but don't think about it as a loss.
That's something that I will take for myself as a takeaway from this podcast. So with this, we come to the end of the podcast, and I'm seriously, for the first time, I had an international guest, and what I wanted when I talked to you about the podcast is I wanted to see that do the researchers from other countries think or face the same things as we do here in India, and trust me, most of the things have been same. So that is the something that I've seen here. Plus you have a very good product for researchers that can actually help them, because not everybody thinks about helping others and bringing a value to the others. So I really appreciate that, and once again thank you for coming on for this podcast.
Thank you so much. And maybe one last thing I could mention. Actually, I was in the crisis. I had a lot of time to work on the test, but I also had time to think about, there is this saying, start with why. So why am I doing what I'm doing? And thinking about the company mission. And I came to the concept that if my company ever does well enough for that, then I would basically buy a huge house in the countryside and make a special, like build a special facility there for teams to come over and work on their projects, and for professionals to work on their career development. Some place where you can come for a certain amount of time and just craft your career peacefully in green and surroundings of nice people. So so that's my dream, personally. So I just want to say that if you buy this test, that's what the income goes for. I mean, I'm basically collecting funds and it will take me many years probably, but I would rather go for a goal that will take another 10 or 15 years of my life than set for quick Lambo. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean. It's like this is the vision. So I just wanted to mention that if you go for the test, then I'm sure it will help you, but you will also help it to help the mission.
That's so good. One of the things that another same thing, like many of the race, just you also have this thing to run out of the city and find somewhere place outside in the countryside where things are not so hustly, things are not cool enough, calm enough. So this is again something that's very common in Indian academia as well as outside also. So thanks so much for coming on to the podcast. I hope all those who are viewing this will surely go ahead and check the test that you have brought for them, and they will buy that test and they will get some amount of value from it. I really think that. So thanks so much for coming on this podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for letting me know that I look like a Harry Potter character. I didn't know that. The first person who told me. Now I have to watch Harry Potter to figure out what that means. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.